Hi, good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Lindsay Parker, and I'm Mayor Muriel Bowser's Deputy Chief of Staff, and I'm so honored to welcome you here to Kramer Middle School today. Thank you, Kramer, for opening your campus to us on a Saturday morning. I know that you guys had a lot going on this morning, and so we really appreciate your flexibility. What a beautiful space to use. There's lots of light. We're excited to get to budgeting. So I wanted to make sure that everybody heard that it's a good idea to, one, introduce yourself to your neighbors, make sure that everybody at your table knows your name, what part of the city you're from, because I think that will not only help in the discussion when it comes to compromising and discussing our priorities. It's just nice to walk away from a space on a Saturday morning and know some new people and new residents and new friendly faces in our city. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here. Thanks. Just wanted to also encourage you to go ahead and take the challenge. Mayor Bowser laid out this budget challenge when she first came into office and said, you know what we need to do is we need to make sure that residents are telling us their priorities even before we start closing the budget to send it to council. So this is all about doing just that. What we're going to do today is we're going to share our priorities with one another, and we're going to compromise as a table and come up with a proposed budget that's balanced. Right? So we're not going to be able to fund all of our wish list items. We all wish we could, but we're going to negotiate and compromise and come up with a balanced $100 budget as a table. But first, I want to know, as an individual, what are your priorities? So that's what I want you guys to work on first. But with that, before we get into sort of the budgeting at the tables, I want to make sure that you have the tools that you need to make some of those hard compromises and make some of those and talk about some of those tough negotiations. And so without further ado, Mayor Bowser's team that works with her day and night over the next few weeks to come up with a budget are going to give you a rundown of all that they do and give you some of the tools that you're going to need to negotiate with your table mates. And so Jenny Reed is the mayor's budget and performance director, and she's going to give you a little rundown of the budget process. Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks, Lindsay. Good morning, everyone. So I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the budget process. I want to arm you with a few tools to help you make your decisions at your tables while you engage with us on the budget today. So as Lindsay mentioned, I'm the director of the Mayor's Office of Budget and Performance Management. And so my team really works all year round to make sure that we're investing dollars where you think they're the highest priority and that those dollars are spent well at the end of the day. So our season really kicks off in January, and that's when all of our agency directors send us their budgets. So they tell us where they think the best use of dollars are to help them meet their priorities. We sit down with every agency director and we go through their budget and we hear about what they need. Then we come out to the community. So right now, this is where we come out to you all. This is our fourth engagement session where we're hearing from residents about what are your priorities and values for the district's budget. We then take all that input and we present recommendations to the mayor. She makes the final decisions, and then we submit our budget to the DC Council for consideration this year on March 21st. Once the budget gets to the council, they start unpacking it and looking at it. So they hold hearings on every single agency's budget. They invite residents to come testify. They eventually pass the budget and send it back to the mayor for signature. Once that happens, the budget then gets submitted up to Congress, which we don't really love, but they take a look at it, and then we go to the enactment phase. So all of the priorities and dollars that you asked us to invest, we start to allocate to the agencies, and then the other half of my team really comes in to make sure that those dollars are spent well, to make sure that those dollars are achieving the outcomes that you all think we should achieve, and if we need to make any corrections, we do that along the way. Finally, we wrap up with the mayor's accountability report, where she tells you each and every year how she's made good on the promises that she laid out at the start of her term. And then we end with our financial audit. And I'm really proud to say that we've had 22 clean consecutive audit opinions, and for the third year in a row, no material weaknesses. So we're doing a good job with the investment of your dollars. So the district's budget is really complicated, and that's because we are a city, state, county, and school district all rolled into one. So we provide a lot of programs and services here. To do that, we have a $13.9 billion budget, and that is made up of about $10 billion in local funds, $4 billion in federal funds, and we have about a $1.3 billion capital budget that we use to invest in facilities like this beautiful middle school where we are today. So how is that pie broken down? How is that $13 billion broken down? Well, the largest share of the pie that we spend on is health and human services. So these are things like our investments to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. This is our health care for our residents. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Our next largest share of our pie is on education. So this is funds for our DC public schools, for our public library, for our charter schools, and for our own University of the District of Columbia. I know, I see some t-shirts here today for UDC. The third largest share of our budget goes to government operations. These are the folks that pick up the trash, they plow the streets, they make sure that we have technology services in all the schools, and they help us hire great talent to work in district government. Finally, after that is our public safety agencies. So this is your police department, your fire and emergency medical services, your 911 operators, the people that keep the city safe. Next, we spend about $453 million on jobs and economic opportunity. These are programs at our Department of Employment Services like SYEP and Career Connections, and you can see the Deputy Mayor for Greater Economic Opportunity very excited about this. And then finally, we spend a little over $300 million on affordable housing. So these are our investments in our Housing Production Trust Fund and our Local Rent Supplement Program, really the programs that provide affordable housing to residents in need. So now I'd like to turn it over to the city administrator, who's going to walk you through more specifically some of the key investments we have made in this budget in FY18.
Thank you, Jenny. Good morning, everyone. So we spend a lot of money, as Jenny just talked about, in district government to cover a lot of priorities. And you see some of the priorities here on the screen. I just want to talk a little bit about some of the specific programs and initiatives that we invest in these areas. So as you sit at your tables and think about how you want to allocate your $100, you have some sense of where, more specifically, we put our money. So in education, we've made investments certainly to keep education a priority in this administration, to fund our public schools and our public charter schools. And we made investments like $174 million in teacher pay so that our teachers can have a new contract and raises for the first time in 5 years. We've spent $1 million on field trips for students to go to arts exhibitions and performances, about $6 million for out-of-school time programs, $1.6 billion to support education services to the 91,000 traditional and charter public school students, $78 million to support the University of the District of Columbia, nearly $40 million for parks and recreation programs, $154 million in spending for early learning, and about $38.4 million for library services and materials at our 26 libraries. I do want to point out that there is, I think, a petition at each table asking you to support continued funding for DC TAG. This is a program that's been funded by the federal government at around $40 million. It provides in-state tuition rates for DC residents to go to public universities across the country. And as you might have heard, the Trump administration wants to completely eliminate DC TAG. And so we want to tell the administration that here in DC, we support DC TAG and we support our residents' ability to be able to access higher education across the country. So before you leave, please make sure that you sign that petition. Let's talk a little bit about health and human services. As Jenny indicated, this is the area where we invest and make sure that we have a safety net for our most vulnerable residents. And we've spent money in areas like TANF policy, so $10.3 million to make sure that residents who continue to need cash assistance can receive it. The folks in the health and human services cluster are excited about that. $12 million invested in programs that divert young people from criminal justice systems, $1 million for the Joyful Food Markets initiative, which makes sure that there is fresh food in underserved communities, $3 million to allow our seniors to age in place at home and be able to make changes to their homes like grab rails and ramps so that they can stay in the house that they've lived in. And $130 million to deliver on our commitment to close DC General this year and make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. We know that safe communities are great communities, and we have to make sure that all of our neighborhoods are safe across the district, and that's why we've invested nearly $9 million to help recruit and retain police officers, nearly $5 million to hire more firefighters and EMTs. We've invested $2.3 million to launch a returning citizens portal so we can help our returning citizens transition effectively back into the community. We've hired and made investments to hire more correctional officers and social workers that deliver programs and support those that are incarcerated at the DC jail. $1.4 million to hire participants to work in 311 call taker positions. So we hire individuals, train them for government jobs, and then allow them to take those jobs on full time. $1 million to help divert 911 abuse and connect people who need primary care services and primary care physicians to that service. $1.5 million to create the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. This was a key part of the NEAR Act. $500,000 for private security cameras for residents and businesses, and $21 million to make sure that our first responders have the equipment that they need. In housing, we know that that's a huge issue for those in the district to make sure that we have affordable housing. That's why for the third year in a row, we've invested $100 million in the Housing Production Trust Fund. And so we nearly doubled the amount of money that we invest in affordable housing. We've invested $10 million to keep housing affordable for existing affordable units to maintain their affordability. $3.5 million to support tenants' rights, $17 million to support our cultural economy, and $15 million to help low and moderate families be able to afford a down payment so they can own a home here in DC. That's worth a clap too, right? Absolutely. In the jobs and economic opportunity area, we make investments to be able to connect people to middle-class jobs and jobs that will help sustain their families. And that's why we've invested $2.5 million to entrepreneurs to help start new businesses in the district, $18.6 million to support the more than 10,000 individuals that participate in the Marion Barry Summer Youth Employment Program, $10 million for job training programs to help people who have barriers find employment, and about $1.8 million in apprenticeship programs to connect people to good-paying jobs as well. The Deputy Mayor for Greater Economic Opportunity is quite vocal today about her cluster. We love it. And then in government operations, we spent about $3.7 million for snow removal, $950,000 to help advance our initiative for DC to become the 51st state in the union, about $1.5 million to support additional staff for our solid waste division, and $300,000 to make sure that our financial information and budgetary information is open and transparent. So as you think about the kinds of dollars you want to invest or where you want to invest in those priorities, just think about some of these projects and programs that I've talked about and what areas that they're in to help guide your thinking. And so to give you further instruction and direction on what you're going to do at the table, let me turn it back over to Lindsay Parker.
Thanks, Rashad. I wanted to just briefly let you know that in front of you, you've got a packet of materials, and some of those materials cover some of those issues that the city administrator just told you about. So we've got, number one, we've got all the numbers that he just went over, so you can use that as a little bit of a cheat sheet to see how we've already spent the budget this year, and so therefore how you want to spend it next year. We've got an accountability report all about what the mayor's been up to for the past 3 years. And we've got the Pledge to Save DC tag. I've got too many things in my hands now. The Pledge to Save DC tag, an Everyday Counts pledge, so you can read a little bit more about how we're making sure that students get to school. A Safer, Stronger DC one-pager. and more about our security camera program. So there's a few other things to read about that the budget helps go towards and make sure that these services and programs actually are delivered to our residents. So go ahead and make sure that you're taking a look at that packet as you discuss your priorities with your neighbors. And so for the next 20 minutes, let's get budgeting. I need you to take Mayor Bowser's budget challenge and talk and share with your table why you've prioritized the spend of that $100 the way that you have. So facilitators, again, do you mind raising your hands? These are your facilitators. They're going to guide you through the next 40 minutes. Exciting and efficient volunteers, and they're also going to be taking notes about some of the things that you're discussing and sharing them with the mayor as we go through this process. So let's get budgeting. Thanks.
You're given only $100. Sure can. But you can talk about ideas to generate revenue.
So let's get started. Who put the most money in government operations? Interesting, okay. What about public safety? Chief Newsham? Chief Dean, Chief Newsham? If you want to stand up, they've got a little bit of work to do. If anybody has any public safety questions, feel free. The chiefs are here. How about Health and Human Services? Okay, pretty good. Oh, a whole table. Wait, Health and Human Services? Oh, just the deputy mayor. Oh, wait, there's a... Okay, a whole table there. Okay. And then how about Jobs and Economic Opportunity? Okay. And did we forget any? Okay, how about education? All right, now the hard part is you gotta collaborate with one another and talk it through. So let's keep talking it through. We've got a few more minutes from that, and then we're gonna hear from the mayor and the deputy mayors. Thanks, everyone. So while you have your converse among your table, we're also going to hear from the deputy mayors, just so they can give you their pitch on why they think it's most important to give into which category they think it's most important to give. So first up, we're going to hear, since education was a big hit, from Deputy Mayor for Education, Anna Smith, right here at table 10.
Thank you. So I am so excited to be here. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Thank you all for those of you who are already cheering on education. I don't even feel like I need to make a pitch. I also want to thank Principal Smith and Kramer Middle School for hosting us today. Yes, kudos. Our educators are among the hardest working in the city. So it's my privilege to serve in this position. I get to work with some amazing agencies, DC Public Schools, public charter schools, the State Superintendent for Education, Parks and Recreation, DC Library, and the University of the District of Columbia. So what we in education do is focus on making sure our young people, all of our residents, have an opportunity to learn, grow, and thrive. Whether it's having outdoor recreation spaces to help them stay healthy and fit, whether it's libraries that help them learn about new places and interesting subjects that they never knew even existed, or our schools that are arming our kids with the skills that they need to thrive in the long term. We are investing in some really amazing things like sending our kids abroad. Our global education is growing and making sure our young people have access to things that they never even imagined. When we think about the three things that we are determined to do and what your investments help us do, it is to provide great schools to all of our students. It's to make sure that they get safely to and from school every single day. And to make sure that they have opportunities to learn and thrive before school, after school, and throughout the school year. And so my job here is to just tell you thank you for all of your support, and thank you for making sure that education gets the funding it needs. Have a great day.
Next up, our Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development, Brian Kenner.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? So I'm Brian Kenner. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development. We're going to do a little call and response here this morning, okay? How many people want to see more jobs in the District of Columbia? How many people...
Why don't we have them say jobs? Come on, go ahead, Kenner.
Okay. How many people want to see more grocery stores, especially in underserved communities in Washington? And finally, how many people want to see more affordable housing and workforce housing in the District of Columbia? Okay. Thank you, Polly. If you want to see all those things, then my cluster is where you need to be spending your money. We are the cluster that includes such things as jobs, as small business opportunities, as resources to help small businesses go to places where they've never gone before, and most importantly to me, resources to help affordable housing and senior housing happen in the District of Columbia. You will see on your sheet where they look at the percentages that housing is only 3% of our current budget. And that is, by the way, the most that it's ever been. This administration has spent the most on housing ever, but we know that we've got more to do. So I encourage you to think about housing, small business opportunities, and jobs when you're thinking about your sheets. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Next up, Deputy City Administrator and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, Kevin Donahue.
Hey, folks. So I'm going to give you all an idea of my challenge here. So I have oversight over public safety and operations. Now, I want everyone to cheer if you're here to advocate for education. Let me hear you. Okay. I want everyone to cheer if you're here to advocate for public safety. Let me hear you. Okay. Oh, I got some. Okay. I've been to every budget engagement forum since the mayor started having them in 2015. And I know probably at the end of this, if we're distributing $100, there's some of these clusters or areas that will be trading in 10s and 20s, and some will be dealing with 5s and 1s. And so I want to give you an idea as to why you should think differently about public safety and operations and have us trade more in the 10s and 20s. First of all, it has some agencies that you might not recognize. So public safety, we have police, we have fire. We also have the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. And Del McFadden, why don't you stand up? So Del is here to help implement the NEAR Act, and that's part of public safety. In operations, we have DMV and Public Works. We also have our Office of Human Rights. Monica Palacio, stand up. So she is here to make sure we serve all communities and groups equally. So the reason I'll tell you to think about them is that I moved to Washington as a teenager 30 years ago. And when I moved here, the stories around public safety was about DC being the murder capital. We finished 2017 at the lowest violent crime level since we started counting violent crime in the district. And in operations, when it snowed, the question was not, will we cancel school, but will we plow the streets? That's not a question we have anymore. So I'm going to tell you how you can get everything you want here in all the clusters, and that is that there's a connection between the fact that we're a safer city and a more well-run city and the fact that our pie is bigger. So if you want the pie to grow, we have to have a safe city, we have to have a well-run city, so people, residents, businesses feel comfortable settling and doing work in DC. So remember that when you want the pie to grow and you sit down and think about how much to give public safety and operations. Thank you.
And next up, the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, Hai-Suk Chung, up here at table 12.
Okay. The deputy mayors have a really tough task. We have to outdo each other. And Kevin, you're getting better at selling your agencies. How dare you? My name is Hesuk Chung, and I am the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services. I have to say, I have the privilege of thinking every day of services, programs, and offerings for anybody born in the city and anybody who dies in the city. So I have 8 agencies whose sole purpose is to make you live a happy, healthy, and thriving life in DC. So this administration, under Mayor's leadership, I just saw her, we took a bold step in trying to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. And I saw the director here. Where's the director? Woo! There she is. We are challenging ourselves to create a new vision of health care delivery system east of the river. That is going to take dollars. We have a vision where every resident in DC is going to be cared for. We have the highest health insurance rates. We have some of the best Medicaid offerings. That does not come cheap. And I will tell you that every one of us will tell you to invest in our agencies, but what can I say about my agency that's so different than yours? When you invest $1 in one of my programs, like TANF, we're saving $7 to $12 in interventions later in public safety, in other programs. But I'm not gonna say that, Kevin. I want you to get some money too. I'm sorry. All right, so with that in mind, just think about all the ways that we're taking care of our own. No matter what happens on the federal level, no matter what happens with national politics, we are going to take care of our own. And so with that, Health and Human Services, I would be fine with getting $40 instead of $100, but let's just think about like keeping in the $20 to $30 range. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. And then we'll go to the Deputy Mayor for Greater Economic Opportunity, Courtney Snowden, to close us out for the Deputy Mayor pitches.
Well, good morning, everybody. Or as I like to say, hey, y'all. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, that's call and response. Hey, y'all. That's better. So a couple of housekeeping things I need to tell you about. One, how many heard of the Mayor's Fair Shot Toolkit for African American Prosperity in DC? We are bringing that toolkit to life today at the Convention Center at noon. So right after this, if you don't feel like driving over to the Convention Center, you can hop in a shuttle right out front that'll take you over and bring you back every 30 minutes. Applaud that government at work. All right, so look, Kevin said you're gonna be dealing in 1s and 5s maybe. In our government, we deal in 4s, a little under 5 for jobs and economic opportunity, right? Right. Here's the deal. You have seen unemployment in your District of Columbia go down by 1.1 percentage point with just under $5 million, 5% of the budget, right? Really? Y'all don't like unemployment going down? The greatest decreases in unemployment, where we've been able to really drive it down, are in overlooked and underserved communities, mostly in Ward 7 and Ward 8. Applaud that. Now, if Director Donald from DOES, stand up, Director Donald, say hi to folks. If Director Donald from DOES can do that with 5% of the budget, just think of what I can do with 20% of the budget. And if you give me that much, we will have less need for health and human services programs, although important. We will help create a safer city. We will create more homeowners, right? And so you gotta help me help you. The other thing we do in our cluster is we help grow small businesses across the city, and in particular in corridors that have been long overlooked and underserved. Where is Christy Whitfield? I saw her. Give Christy Whitfield, the director of DSLBD, a round of applause. She's working hard every day to make sure we are helping business owners start businesses, helping them grow and helping them thrive. We do that with programs like the Aspire to Entrepreneurship program, which helps returning citizens start their own businesses. Yes, Brian from Morga likes that. We need your help in this budget, so I'm telling you, put your money where my mouth is and give me at least 20% of that budget. We can change the world with that.
And also, since we've had so many folks, where are the education supporters? All right. So since we had so many education supporters, we have a special guest as well. Interim Chancellor Amanda Alexander has joined us. She'll be going around to the tables to introduce herself, so make sure you make her feel welcome and ask her to come to your table so she could advocate for even more for education. What do you think? No? Hisuk Chung said no. But I wanted to also, while you go back to collaborating, or before you go back to collaborating, let's hear from Mayor Bowser about what's up next.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here on a Saturday morning for budget engagement. Isn't it fun? You probably heard already that we started doing this in our very first year in 2015, and it was from my experience as a council member. As a council member, I saw the mayors, I worked with 2 mayors, put together their budgets, and then give them to the council, and then go out and talk to the community. And I thought, well, that's kind of backwards, because by the time the mayor goes pencils down on the budget, a lot of things have been decided, and there's very little wiggle room at the end of the process. So we committed then to have really robust engagement across the entire city to talk about your priorities. And then we thought how important it was that you had the same task that we had, to sit around the table with competing important priorities, all good programs, all for good causes, all to help the residents of the District of Columbia, but without an unending pot of money, all not possible at the same time. And so that's what you're helping us figure out today, looking at those 6 buckets and trying to figure out how we balance our budget and make strategic investments that help make our city safer, our residents better prepared for career and life, our residents more well, and our city growing and getting ready for the future. All of that is what we have to do. Now, we are living in privileged times in many ways because our city is growing. Did you all meet Leah and Cooper? You know who Leah and Cooper are? Leah and Cooper are our representative 700,000 residents of the District of Columbia. Leah and Cooper were born this week, and you know we haven't been a city this big in probably since around the time I was born, and that wasn't that long ago, I know. But we're growing, and it's good that we're growing because when we attract residents and businesses, we also attract the resources that we need to make the investments in schools and in public safety and in government operations and in better transportation and fewer potholes and more paved roads. So all of those things help us become a safer and stronger city. But we also, with that growth and prosperity, we know we have a bigger opportunity, but also responsibility to help those who need more help in our city. And that's what we're also focused on. So we will get our budget together. We'll send another balanced budget to the council. We'll work with our council colleagues to make sure that the final budget reflects our priorities, but more importantly, our values as Washingtonians. So I'm gonna come around to more tables. Please balance your budgets. I know some of you are gonna go over, right? I know it. But we can't go over. We have to have a balanced budget in Washington, D.C. So good luck, everybody.
So just want to make sure everybody knows what we should be working on now is those big boards in the middle. So on one side, you want to put the highest amount that anyone at your table put in that category. So if somebody put 100 in education, just put that on there. And then put the highest somebody put for public safety and down the list. Then add that up, see how much that adds up to. Then the hard part comes. You got to flip it over, and you got to make it add up to 100. All right? So we've got a few more minutes before we hear from the tables how they got to 100. But let's work collaboratively, put the highest amount on one side, and then on the other side, balance the budget so that it adds up to 100. And we'll have a few more minutes for that. Thanks, everyone.
finish this first, and then we'll come with it. What do you guys, education before we had 25. This one will be tonight.
That's a 6 slogan.
So that's a relatively 4% $4.
But I think it's the same question I had about housing. What could they do with that increase?
Right. And that is important.
All right, table 17 is done. We're gonna start hearing from some tables to hear how you guys spent your $100. Are there any tables that want to go first? Let's see, which table? I don't know, Chief Dean, what do you think? Chief Dean, which table do you think we should go to? Which table, Chief Dean? Help me out. All right. Well, I know we have a Kramer teacher here with us participating today. So they're going to get to go first. So we'll go to table 8 first, and then we'll figure out what's next. All right, table 8. Let's hear from table 8. And what we're going to do is you're going to have 90 seconds.
90 seconds.
Yep.
Sounds good. So what we did was we all individually wrote down the numbers that we thought that we needed for our budget. So then we tallied up all the numbers for each individual section and just averaged it out. So upon first try, we actually ended up with the numbers that actually equaled out to the $100 that are needed. So for education, yep. So it's kind of like one of those mic drop things, you know, we got it on the first try.
Maybe you guys should come be the budget team.
There you go. We thought about that. We thought about that.
Sorry, Jenny.
So for education, we went with 26. Public safety, we went with 10. For jobs and economic opportunity, 12. Housing, 13. Government operations, 10. And health and human services at 29. And we did put an emphasis on family wellness and education, because all of these things kind of intertwine once you really start looking at it. But education begins at home, and we need to make sure that families have a stable home so they can send their kids to school and feel comfortable as they learn. So,
great.
Thanks.
Thank you, table 8. Let's hear it for table 8. So they had the highest amount in health and human services, correct? By 3, okay. Which other table wants to go and tell? All right, I think table 5 is really enthusiastic, despite being in the back. Table 5.
Hello, my name is Johanna. I'm a Latina, and I work at Carecen. And we have allocated our money based on education being more important and health and human services. And then we decided public safety, housing, government, and jobs. But what I would like to say is that it's not how much we're spending it, but where it's going. So if we focus on maybe education, housing, and health human services, one year we'll see the growth. Then the following year we can maybe allocate money in different areas to maintain this. But I would like to thank the mayor, Muriel Bowser, and her team for putting this together. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, which table wants to go next? Now, Now, everybody stayed within 100, is that right? Did everyone stay within 100? No? Who didn't stay over 100? All right, table 10, let's hear it. What'd you do? And tell us your name and what ward you're from.
Hi, I'm Donna Armstrong, and I'm at Ward 7, and we have at our wonderful table here, wonderful group, we represent 4 different wards. So we compromised. We went over a little bit at first, not much, but we focused on education and public safety. We felt that we kind of couldn't go down anymore in these 2 sections. They're very important, and again, in certain wards, maybe more than others. You know, public safety and education is well needed. Jobs opportunity, we kind of felt like if you are educated, you're safe, people will want to come here and live and work and come to the DC area. So housing is very important as well, because if you have, if everyone, if the housing is affordable, you'll get more people who are educated in a safe area to come in. Government operations is all are very important, very, very important. And it was a difficult decision, but we compromised and we got our budget to $100, and that's it.
Great.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Let's come over to this side. I really want to hear what the debate was about at table 19. They were fighting over $1 at the end, delaying us all, but let's hear from table 19. And let's say your name and where you're from, what ward you're from. And let's face the camera right here. Devon, right there. Yep. No.
Okay, Channing, you start. My name is Channing Jameson, and we decided for our education to be $24, and for public safety 12.5, and for jobs and economic opportunity 5, and for housing 5.5, and for government operations 13, and for health and human services 40.
Sure. So it was so hard. We do not know how you people do this. That's all I have to say. Yes, we were about ready to arm wrestle over $1 at our table because we have some health and human services advocates who will go unnamed who are sitting with us. But thank you for all you do.
Great. Thank you for your help. All right. Any other tables want to go? Which tables? All right, let's hear from table 17. Now, they all have the same color shirt on, so that might tip us off. Let's see how they did.
Yes. We have decided to place the most money, 30% of our budget, into education, specifically in the OST funding, so that DC families don't have to choose between work and sending their children to quality out-of-school programming. Since the 63% cut in 2010, which is equivalent to $25 million, that is what we think really should be put back into our educational system. By putting, I'm with PAVE, just to let everyone know, but by putting more resources into education, everything else, and health and human services, everything else will work its way out. The public safety and job opportunities will grow. Everything else will just work its way out. 12% in public safety, 10% in job and economic opportunities, 20% in housing, 8% in government operations, and 20% in health and human services. But overall, we really would like to see that 30% in education.
Great. All right, thank you. Well said by that table. All right, we've got time for one more table. Really gonna have to hear from you. I might need help. I might need help from Chief Newsham picking the table. Chief, what do you think? Who's the loudest? All right. Let's compromise. We'll go to 6, but then just to make it fair, we'll go to 9 and 15. But you only have 60 seconds. 60 seconds, guys.
So our table agreed that over the current budget, we want to make a much bigger investment in housing and make sure that we have 2,100 new housing units every year over the next decade, affordable housing, particularly for seniors. We also want to increase jobs and economic opportunity in the creative economy, for one, and also for jobs for seniors as well. And then the other big thing that our table agreed is we want to put a nickel to DC fair elections and make sure that's fully funded because we feel like investing in that is a good long-term investment to make sure that the priorities of everyday people, not just big donors, are reflected in our budget and in our government. And I'm Tyler Creighton from Ward 6.
Great. Thank you. And then let's go to 9, table 9.
Hi there, I'm Eric. I'm in Ward 2. And I apologize up front because I am an economics geek and I'm in grad school. So anyway, top priorities were education and health and human services. We think those are so critical to the health of a community. Jobs and economic opportunity, once again, educate your populace, give them jobs, grow the tax base, and then housing, 10, public safety, and government, 7.5 each. So that's, Oh, revenue, yeah. Oh, and we think that there should be revenue growth. Yes, okay. Taxes, increase, more taxes, more tax base. Yeah, tap into the rainy day fund. Yeah. Prosperity for all, right? Okay, that's us. Thanks.
And Jackie at table 12 wants to speak with you about the tax increases. All right, our last table, table 15, tell us who you are, what ward you're in, and how you spent the 100. We are table 15. Oh, can we get that mic? Your mic's off.
Didn't know that till now. So we have people at our table from all different wards, so we were very good representation of the city. So let's start with Health and Human Services remained our top priority. Exactly. I'm looking at you. Let's talk about where we spent more money and why. We increased all three of these areas: education, jobs and economic opportunity, and housing. Everyone needs a safe place to live. Everyone needs a safe, adequate housing to stay in. We need to invest in the future. Jobs and economic opportunity and education are tomorrow. If we continue to spend for today, we'll always wonder what happened to the money tomorrow. That's under 60.
Great.
Mayor Bowser.
Uh-oh.
I want to address to our mayor. I'm from Ward 8. Ward 8 in the house? Woo! My number one is public safety. DC finest what we call the police officers. They work so hard, they underpaid, understaffed, and we need to hire more police officers, and we need to bring back the senior police officers, that program. So we are very in truancy. That's what we need.
Great, thank you. So we really appreciate all the feedback that you've given. What we want to make sure is fill out those worksheets, fill out those pledges. All you have to do is leave them on the table, and your moderator, they'll collect them at the end of the day. A couple folks that we just want to thank for helping us put this together today: Career Discovery Services, Kramer Middle School, Principal Smith. Definitely want to thank you for hosting us. DPR, Office of Cable Television, Support Services, Octo, the Mokers and the Mocha offices, and all the folks who are in the administration who came out on a Saturday morning to hear from all of you. So our final thank you is to each and every one of you for coming out and giving your input. Give yourselves a round of applause. We really do take the ideas that you leave with us and put them to work. So why don't we hear from one more time from our mayor, and then we'll thank you all for coming. Thank you, everyone.
Well, guys, you did a great job, and I just want to add to my thanks. Our team has put together our 4th series of budget engagement forms, and I want to thank them for their hard work. Let's start with our budget team in the CA's office. Give them a big round of applause. I want to start with the Deputy Chief of Staff and all the Mokers, and all of the Bowser appointees. Let's give them a big round of applause. And everybody who has really made this possible. 4 engagements over 5 days. I think we probably talked to about 1,000 people getting ready to finish our budget. So stay tuned, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the city. Have a great day.